Jack,
Tom.
Ali, Ros, I have a terrible tummy ache, man.
Was that it? Was that your big lead?
Well, yeah, man, because I just told you when we were eating
You turned
food.
to all of us. You went, I've got a way to start this off.
I did not.
And
because I was just
it's because you ate 3 chocolate fingers.
Is it the lactose intolerance?
Oh, you've done the research.
I've done my research.
Bollocks! Yeah, because chocolate has a.
When you said in the shop, I'm going to have a tummy, I thought you knew that was because of the lactose.
Nah, I thought it was just because of all the sugar.
God almighty.
Oh, right, bollocks. Well, look, I'm in the headspace for some relationship therapy with Jack. We're in a bit of a not. We're friends, just at that. But no, when you're ready, hit to say the title of the show in it, and then the title sequence. Well, I'm getting all. Yeah.
Shut up! I'm talking.
Shut up, I'm talking, shut up, I'm talking, shut up, I'm talking, shut up, I'm talking, shut up, shut up, shut up, I'm talking, shut up, shut up.
Shut Up, I'm Talking podcast, episode 29. We have a big one today. People, look, we have been worried. For this podcast to work, me and Tom have to have a good relationship.
Got to get on.
We got to get on. And recently we've been arguing, mainly specifically about a film, but we'll get to that. So we decided, what better than to get, and I hope, couples therapist, relationship therapist? What's the exact title for you guys?
Both, really.
Both?
Yeah, and working with individuals, but couples, relationships, yeah.
How long have you been doing it?
God, that's a big
I've
question.
been doing it 20 years, but only 5 years for the relationship stuff.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I've been doing it similarly for the relationships.
I don't look old enough, do I?
No, that's what I was thinking when I did that reaction.
And I've been doing it for 30 years, but I started as a music therapist. So I started as a music therapist,
What's
which
a music
is
therapist?
it's working in the sort of same way that you do with counselling or psychotherapy, but you're using improvisation and music so that you can, in a way, make the relationship with people through that,
cool.
rather than necessarily talking about it. So people who maybe find it really hard to express themselves with words, or maybe have various disabilities or whatever, that's a really lovely way to connect with
wicked,
them
man.
through improvisation. So that was my first before
I did not
psychotherapy.
know that was a thing. That's
Yeah.
so sick.
Yeah.
Well, I did jazz for like 5 years. Jazz music, that's quite.
Okay.
I'm gonna look
Yeah,
into that.
so there's something very improvisational about music therapy. So jazz
Yeah.
would be really sort of
It is. It's good for
a link.
Good for
in,
the
yeah,
my
Good
mind.
at it.
yeah.
I'm grade 5 actually. So grade highest grade.
I don't know what that means.
Highest-
Is it? Okay.
It's the highest grade.
What's your
good.
what's your instrument?
Well, where do I begin? Piano. It's just piano. So I don't know.
There's
what
no
I'd
just. There's no just.
Thank you so much.
Little bit of discounting going on there. I noticed.
Oh, we're already, look at it.
Man,
It's already started. They've got
Right,
you.
right, okay. Should we just dive right in? And
Go
you
for
guys
it.
have a podcast as well, don't you?
We do.
We are just starting one. Yeah.
Wicked. What's the name?
It's going to be called Relational Lives. And it's not just about relationships, but it's about the relationship we have with ourselves as well.
Oh, that's perfect.
Awesome. And you can find a link to that in the description, dear viewers. Now let's get into the fucking meat of it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So, what? Doing a big deep breath. So yeah, we wrote some questions, but unlike usually with our guests, we're sort of happy if you take the lead. This is a new experience for us.
You guys showed up with notes, which
We
is,
have.
like, I'll
they're
say, unusual from a guest perspective.
They're a tiny font, man, which is a sign of.
Yeah, it's
of-
impressive, really, for our age, having
Stupidity.
tiny font. But
No, dominance.
No,
you
mate, look at the
we've
size of
crammed
our
more
font.
into our
It's
notes
massive.
than you.
This is what we wanted to start by talking about. Is a Bob Dylan movie. Because I think it's wicked, yeah? Don't laugh. I think it's one of the best films I've seen in years. Genuinely.
And I thought it was fine.
And Jack here thinks it's fine. The more we talk about it, we start, really disagreeing with one another.
There's been a couple of episodes of this podcast where it's genuinely got intense for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we can't agree on
He doesn't see
this
what
should
I
be,
see.
This should be fine. And I'm cool to, it's fine that you, but I think what you kept saying is that I just didn't get
He
it,
doesn't get it.
which I disagree with. I just don't think, I think I got it. I just didn't,
You just didn't think it was.
it was worthwhile.
deep enough.
Yeah, I
They were
just didn't think it
letting
was much of anything.
He's wrong.
if we were working with a couple or with people, 2 people in the room.
Does it have to be a couple? But like when you say relationship,
No,
is it
it could be a
strictly
friendship.
romantic?
No.
Okay,
It could be-
no.
we work
Okay.
with families as well, so it could be anybody. It could be
Okay.
siblings.
So you're prepared for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in a way, what we would sort of start looking at is if you think you're talking about the film, you're talking about the film. So we would probably say, when you're talking about the Dylan film, how does that play out between you? What happens between you? What positions do you
Well,
both kind of take?
I
Not
say-
in terms of what you think about the film. Sorry, interrupting you.
Sorry.
But not in terms of the film itself, the content that you're talking about. Like, I like the film, I don't like the film so much. But more about when you're talking about the film, how do you both interact?
I get well pissed off.
You
So
do.
you
get pissed off.
At what point do you get pissed off? That's the bit.
May I speak candidly?
Yeah.
When I think he's stupid. When I think he's stupid and he doesn't get it.
So it sounds really important to you that that Jack is kind of coming towards you on your side, that you really want him to be loving the film as much as
do.
you do.
Yeah.
And so there's some importance in there.
It's important to me. It's a
Yeah.
special film to me.
Well, it sounds like Jack's
disagree-
important to you too.
Yeah. Yeah, he is, yeah. And I want him to like my new favourite film.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you want him to get over onto your side.
I do.
Because
And he's over there.
he's your buddy. He's your
Yeah.
mate.
He's my best friend. One
Yeah.
of 5. But
But still, 1
Yeah.
of 5.
one of 5, do you
One
know
of
what I mean?
5. We're in the 5.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I thought you were going to go, no, I don't rank them, but you
I
sort of locked
definitely
in.
do rank them, yeah. But that's for me.
Oh, so you're not going to be sharing.
Interestingly, though, when I watched that Bob Dylan,
Oh, you've seen the argument.
Yeah, we've seen
Oh,
the
okay,
argument.
good.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I noticed you seem more obviously annoyed.
That's often the case with me always. But my annoyance came from the fact that
You were stupid, mate.
well, that's where my problem comes in. I'm
So when you hear
happy
him
to
say that-
disagree on the film. Like I don't have to like it. You can think it's a work of art. It doesn't really matter. But I think the fact that you would diminish me not liking it to stupidity is what frustrates me, because I think I have a valid point. It's not stupid.
So when he says you're stupid.
It's the invalidation of the point rather than the disagreements with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what he's saying is invalid because he's wrong.
And so therefore, coming back to the part for you that you want him to come over to your side again.
I would like, yeah. You know?
That's quite sweet though, isn't it?
It is a sweet thing that you want me to be on your side, but I also think
You want him to be on your side.
not even. No. Well, I mean, it'd be nice if we agreed, but I also am willing to accept that we don't have to. But you don't have the same acceptance. What I want him to be on my side for is the acceptance of disagreements.
Okay, so accepting that
Disagreement. I don't know.
Yeah,
Accepting that you can have differing
Yeah.
viewpoints on it.
But I think his reasons why, this is mad, sorry. Okay, but I think his reasons why is because he says that he doesn't think it was deep enough, and I actually think it was plenty deep, and you just have to read into Timothée Chalamet's amazing acting he does, which is very subtle, but I think Jack doesn't get it. But he takes offence from that, which I can understand. I'd be offended.
At this point, we're too far out and I'd have to see it again, but I don't recall such nuance in the performance.
I recall I've seen it twice.
You've
But the
seen it a
point
few times
is
now.
that you can have differing ways of seeing this, can't you?
Mm.
But it's the fact that you end up arguing about it rather than being able to say, okay,
Yeah.
we see it differently.
Yeah. I guess I could not argue, but that's hard.
But why is that? Oh, no, I'm doing it. Why is that hard?
It's hard because he wants you on his team. He wants you on his side.
I want you on my side.
But we're on a team. It's just we don't have to.
But it's
you
a
know,
betrayal of the team.
it's not a betrayal of the team. The team doesn't have to hold the same values of Bob Dylan films.
I wish it did.
So maybe being controversial, maybe there's something then in the dynamic when you do have an argument or when you do disagree that actually it becomes enjoyable in itself. That the actual process of disagreeing becomes an enjoyable
This is
thing.
the other problem because we're on the podcast.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
hard.
not hammer
Yeah.
myself up a little bit and
Yeah.
call him a dickhead when it's him. But when I usually wouldn't. Well,
Well, it's interesting. Can I make an observation?
please.
There was in that when you were having that argument around, or disagreement, let's say, rather than
Yes,
argument,
yes.
disagreement around the Dylan film. It was interesting because it seemed like you were really enjoying, in some ways, the fact that Jack was kind of getting more and more pissed
We
off.
do love a good squabble. me
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Jack.
But I think
Which
you
seemed-
like a
I
squabble.
was going to
Oh,
say.
fuck off, do
I
you love a
noticed
squabble?
No,
That's what I think I noticed.
right.
Your discomfort with it more than.
I don't know why we have to argue.
I love a good argument.
Yeah.
You love a good argument.
I
angry.
love a debate. They're a different thing. You are right. There's a point at which you can disagree about things, and then there's a point at which that shifts, and you just start like going for personal jams, and you reach that territory quickly.
I do, but I hate when people do it back to me.
Okay.
Exactly.
I hate that.
And at least
So
you
good
know that.
observation then. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think possibly you should stop doing it to others.
I only do it No, that wasn't going to be a very valid point.
We've got some questions we want to ask.
Yeah, okay.
All right,
yeah.
go on.
Is that okay?
We're here
Please,
now. We're open
yeah,
already.
we're actually
We're already open.
So we want to explore this friendship a bit more.
Jack, and I
Okay.
love you.
Yeah, no, I love you too.
I love
mate.
you too.
Oh.
This is going to be tough, but I love you.
Is it?
Oh,
They've
Oh,
skipped
yeah.
to the last bit.
yeah.
You'll,
Oh,
you'll
we're supposed
find
to do that
out
at the end. Sorry.
That's okay. We can remember it at the end.
Okay, yeah, sure. We'll think about it.
Yeah. So,
First question.
so yeah, the first question we were going to ask you really is how because we're not from the world of YouTubing and we don't sort of, we have kids.
And probably
the
some of your
older you
listeners might not know the answer to this.
Yeah, but we wondered how your friendship started.
Well, I was in a Discord call with Jack,
Yes.
and I didn't know him.
Do you know what Discord is?
Oh, which one?
Discord.
No,
Like
what's that?
Skype,
Similar to Skype,
very
yeah.
similar
Okay.
to Skype, or even like Zoom in some ways. You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing, but without camera.
Thank you for checking that out with
That's
us.
all right, of course.
And thank you for asking them.
That's okay, Tom.
This is a
It's a very
mutual
thankful
appreciation.
room. I'm liking this.
You got a lot of praise for that.
There's a lot of manners in this
If
room.
I'd have known, I would have gone in first. Anyway, sorry, we're not used to this level of politeness. Do you know what I mean? We had awful Jacksepticeye on the other week.
Right, no, you need to not do that to him. He's lovely. He is lovely.
We met where we were in a Discord call, and I didn't know Jack, and I found his personality amusing because I didn't know him, and he was very confident, and so I assumed he was one of like the most famous people in the call, and then it turned out he wasn't. I thought that, and then he was really like solid. So then we got in a call, and then. But this is when it was very interesting to me about fame. I was very focused. I was like 15.
How long ago? Oh, so you,
Or like 5 years
years
ago. Yeah.
5
And then
5 years.
we got in a call. I can't remember why, but we spoke like twice. And then I got into we have a sacred group chat with all my friends. And I was like, I have to add this guy. And everyone was like, no, why? And I was like, no, I am. And then we added him, and then we played video games together through COVID. And then
Yeah, we met up at the end of COVID.
met up at the end of COVID.
In
became-
person?
In person.
Yeah, well, it turned out through sheer coincidence that we lived quite close
Really-
to each other.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
it was mad.
sort of like 30 minutes
Oh,
away.
okay.
So we met up, and then Jack came down to Brighton first, and then we had about a year of like friction where Jack was in Brighton and he was leaning more towards being an adult because he was like 18 and, it was important. But I was more, felt like I'd lost the years of being a kid, so I was more. So we didn't really click for about a year. And then we really bonded last year we started doing the tour. Well, we did one tour together, and of 2 weeks in England, and then we had 2 months in America. But at the beginning of the tour, it started being quite troublesome with internet stuff going on and all that. But then also, we both really bonded over David Lynch because he was quite a creative. We both really connected with these things he was saying in his masterclass. And then on the tour, we were very worried about being sick of each other. But actually, because we're very similar, a lot of the things where we butt heads, actually, over the years, we now join forces.
Yeah.
So
When we were younger, we used to butt heads.
we
a
used to
lot.
really butt heads in calls, and then now
So
we're a bit older.
what do you think that butting heads was about then, and then what do you think changed?
Do you want me to just go over this?
yeah.
Me and Tom are very similar, and he would find things that I would do annoying, but because they were things he would do.
Jack would like cut me off or like only talk about work, and it pissed me off, and then I cut him off and only talk about work. So,
And I used to go, well, you do the same thing. And he used to go, no. And I think as you got older, you realise you did. And we found that we accept each other more.
we do.
So the cutting off thing was the thing that you did then to kind of when you were pissed off with each other or if something.
No, I just have ADHD. So
But we didn't know that back then.
We didn't know that at the time, but I just have a bad habit of cutting people off by
Yes.
mistake.
So we were going to ask a little bit about that as well.
Yeah.
How the ADHD comes into the friendship.
Well, this
And
is this is a very recent development.
Yeah.
So I suppose
Well,
I possibly.
we had that vibe after.
I mean, we always knew,
but having
like,
a diagnosis has been more recent,
yeah, it's
hasn't
like
it? Yeah.
a month ago or something like that. So I suppose as of yet, I'm still sort of figuring out the bits that are. You're like, where does it come in? I'm like, I'm sure somewhere.
Well, where you just said, where you
That's
you're
one of them, for sure.
Cut
But
off the
I'm-
conversation. Or,
Sometimes you get quite intense about stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just what I'm learning is it affects my social much more than I realised. And one of them is I cut people off quite bad. I try not to, but it's quite hard because I don't.
Is that because you're on to the next thing?
Yeah,
Or
most of the
because
time.
something's gone on emotionally, as it were, between you and whoever?
Usually it's just someone's triggered a thought that I'm scared I'll lose. And then getting so absorbed in the thought, I've actually forgotten they were still speaking. And then I've spoken, and then only then have I went, oh shit, they were still speaking.
That's that hyperactivity in your mind,
it's
isn't
just
it?
My brain's moving a bit quick.
Yeah.
So I just don't notice.
Having the diagnosis, has that helped you too? In that you understand it
Has
better?
it? That's more of a you question, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can sort of be like, Jack, this is why you're doing it. Not like, Jack, you're being rude. And also be a bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes I like meet you and you weren't like, you didn't always ask me like how I'm doing. You'll just be
That's
like,
true. I'm very bad for forgetting to.
Or sometimes you'll talk, you know, when you talk for enough time in a conversation, you know when it's time to go, I'm going to throw it back to the other person. You don't have that.
I don't have that sense. I'm getting better at it, admittedly.
But what's good though is you can just cut off Jack and he doesn't he takes no offence, which most would. You know.
So because it's one of the things in a relationship, someone with ADHD, isn't it, that if you have a diagnosis, it's less personal. It becomes less.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
That's
not
true.
Makes so much more sense of everything.
It's almost
doesn't it?
helped more so the past year where Jack's thought he's had ADHD than actually
I
the
think
diagnosis.
the actual diagnosis wasn't as big as me realising it, potentially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something though for people, one of our podcasts is going to be on ADHD, isn't it? And I think it's really helpful for people to, I think this is actually one of the things that we felt about you two is that you've done so much, and some of the things that Mirren has said about the feedback you've got, the comments or whatever, how you're making a difference. To people and how they can relate to you. And one of those was the ADHD, wasn't it? And I think this is something. Well, I think it's really important actually, because for me, I've got kids who are a little bit older. I've got 23 and a 26-year-old boys, and I think Gen Z don't get a good show from Gen X or boomers and whatever, because I think I love your generation. I think you've done so much that is stretching the envelope actually on all sorts of levels, and I think you agree, don't you? Because Ali's got kids as well, a bit younger than mine, but youngsters. But this making a difference without you realising it in a way. You've come from this YouTube place, haven't you? And you don't really realise necessarily then how much of a difference. Knowing it more now.
See, this is us as well.
Yeah, I talk and talk.
She talks.
Right.
Yeah.
I talk, and I talk too much.
Did you watch the Jedward episode?
No.
Oh, you would love that. You would really do some therapy. I was picking up on it. I'm like, I reckon Edward wants John to shut up. And he won't.
No,
he's like a real.
But John had a bit of Jayleys, hasn't he?
But John had a bit of Jayleys. Not enough to warrant.
No, they were very.
And what I'll say is,
lightweights.
it's because it's passion. It's like I'm passionate about something.
Yeah,
I talk
I get
about
very
it. So I work with lots of people with ADHD. I mean, as does Ali, and I can really relate to a certain. So we have definitely different wiring.
Sure.
Not that I'm ADHD, but I certainly
We think differently.
We think differently, but we really complement each other, and I think that's something that we've noticed about you two. This lovely friendship that complements each other.
Do you think I've got, and something? Any of them?
Just keeping it broad.
Do you think I've got a bit of something?
You've got something going on?
sprinkled
Would you
in
like
there?
a bit of something?
What would you like?
No, a bit of the,
What do you think?
I don't
Do you
know at this
suspect anything
point.
of yourself?
I
think you have.
think, I think I really think I did. And then as Jack's been more open about his ADHD, I'm like,
Because ADHD can show up differently, can't it?
yeah, or autism or something. But when you've been more open about yours, I'm like, I've got like, I hope you don't mind me saying this, maybe like if your struggles are 100%, mine are maybe like 10% of that.
Right.
I often find like the more I've learned and been around people who actually definitely are diagnosed, I've been like, I don't think.
But there is varied severities. I mean, and my severity, if you recall, was diagnosed severe.
Yeah.
So I would be on the higher end of that.
Do you reckon?
But
I've got
also
a bit?
neurodivergent people are attracted to each other, aren't they? Drawn to each other.
Yeah.
Well, I'm drawn to entirely neurodivergent people, so that would make.
You are, to be fair. It's very
Yeah.
true.
I think, we've ultimately all got different wiring. It's just that sometimes it's something where, it is a more diagnosable thing and has more research has been done on it and whatever else.
So you reckon I've got like a bit little.
I wouldn't want to be in a
No,
position
fair enough.
to say
Yeah.
anything because I don't know you well enough.
Yeah.
But, I think there's
But
something
you know
about
yourself.
Yeah,
That's the
I was gonna
thing.
say.
You know yourself, and you can.
I bet I've
look
got
at-
a sprinkle.
You got a sprinkling of it.
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
My mum doesn't think
I think
am,
I've got a sprinkling of it.
No,
but I bet.
my mum didn't think I did.
Well, there you
And
go.
then I got diagnosed, and then she went, "Oh, I think the problem was that I think I also
Yeah.
have. I think that's
And
what.
that's what happens often.
Yeah.
Is
I
a
have
some of
parent
the
suddenly
symptoms.
realizes.
I
Yeah.
definitely have
Hope it's all right
a
with you.
strong sense of justice. That's one I read online. that
But I
you
think
have.
you're right. It's the wire. It's everybody is wired differently, and people are starting to think about that now, aren't they?
You have a strong sense of justice. You just have a strong sense of when you've been wronged.
That is a strong sense of justice.
Against yourself specifically.
Are we going back
You don't have when it's other people, you don't.
No, I do. No, if someone really fucked over you, I'd be irritated.
We're made.
Oh,
That's very good.
Oh, that's the most pitiful. No. I've got a sense of if someone fucked over someone.
But this is values, isn't it? It's
Values.
like what
It's
you know,
wicked
what's
values,
important to
mate.
you.
Yes,
I have a strong sense of justice. I know what's right or wrong to me.
here we are.
And obviously I'd rather I wasn't wronged more than you because I'm me.
No, that's normal, but I do think I don't. I think you possibly don't always know when other people have been wronged.
Like when?
I can't think of an example right now. You said that, and I thought, do you have a strong sense of justice or just a strong sense of not wanting to be upset yourself?
I don't have a strong sense of defending others. But I can identify when they've been wronged. So that doesn't mean I'm
Are they
going to...
arguing?
I think they're debating at the moment.
This is
this is a bit of fun for me.
No, I think that's true what you just said, but I think that the issue, not the issue, but the part that was important was the bit where you said I don't have a strong urge to defend them.
No,
which
I do.
think-
I do. I was just taking the piss.
Do
No.
you?
I don't know. Well, give us an example of when.
I don't know. I can't think.
Sorry, we've tangented.
you
a
have
bit.
gone off on a bit of tangent.
It's all right. You said that, and I thought, do you have a strong sense of justice?
Well, maybe I don't have autism then. Because I'm no.
Maybe that's what we should take away from it. I don't know. Maybe I was harsh. Maybe it was a harsh judgment. I don't know.
He was harsh, but because he cares and loves me, and he wants me to be okay.
Indeed. And isn't that lovely? You're recognizing your relationship again. You know,
Yes.
that connection of friendship is great.
Thank you.
We have a great connection of
We
friendship.
have a strong connection.
Yeah.
So
These days, yeah.
So yes, something that's come in. So as your friendship has developed, you kind of had the time where you were sort of in a different space, perhaps younger, different stages of that. And then you've got together, and you were saying when you went on tour, because you've got another tour coming up, haven't you?
Yeah.
And so in terms of the tour that you went on before, you said actually it went really well between you.
yeah.
So what does happen for you when you do get in, when you are away and you are noticing? I mean, it might be that you're just not even pissed off or whatever with the other, but you're feeling in a space where you need some space. How do you ask for that? What do you do?
You're a very blunt individual. You would just say
be
it.
like Jack. I'm very good. As I've grown older, figured out nice ways of phrasing it. Like whereas in the past I might have gone, Jack, shut up now, please. I'll go, Jack, my social battery is depleted. I'm going to put on my headphones now. Don't take any offence.
Okay, so you'll communicate it very straightforwardly.
Yeah, I'm an
He's
incredible
very
communicator,
straightforward.
aren't I, Jack?
What about you,
Aren't I?
Dan?
You're
Oh,
a
no.
very straightforward communicator.
No, I'm very empathetic.
You're very good at communicating with people who take well to people who are straightforward.
I'm not blunt.
If you ever got with someone who wasn't good at bluntness, I think you would really
I'm not,
struggle.
No. I'm not that. I'm only blunt with you because also it's a bit of
Maybe
jest.
that's all.
It's a bit of jest. You know what I mean?
So how would
maybe-
you say it to
maybe-
somebody who you wouldn't be being blunt with?
Oh, like, hi, I'm really sorry. I think, I'm quite tired and my social battery's down. I think I'm just going to put
So you
on my
just add a little
headphones
bit
and-
more of a fluffy bit.
bit more
there.
fluff,
Bit more-
bit more nice. Do you know what I mean? Bit more really not wanting it to be. Whereas Jack knows me well enough to.
I know you well enough to be fair. When you do that, I'm like, oh, it's funny.
Yeah.
Just
So what are likely to be the difficulties between you when you're travelling?
We're pretty solid, I think, especially
We've been
last
better
time
these
because I
days.
was having quite a troublesome time. So Jack sort of knew to step up a bit and be there for me. Do you know what I mean? So I think, but like now we kind of know what to talk about. We know when we don't want to talk about something and to move on, really, don't we?
I think honestly, a lot of that you are very good at communicating. You just say exactly what you're thinking.
I'm an incredible
most of the
communicator,
time.
and I'm very honest, and I see the good in people, and I'm very optimistic in people. Not about everything, but I really am.
You said a moment there where you like affirmed yourself a lot.
Well, that's good, isn't it, guys?
That was a really good.
It's good, isn't it, dickhead?
No, I just liked it. You just sort of said, "Oh yeah, I'm very good at communicating, and I'm a good listener, and I'm very kind." It's just sort
No,
of
but it is. I don't know a lot about science or maths or like we were saying the
That's
other week.
And do
but I
you find
have-
that? Do you find that hard? Because I think you do know more about science, don't you?
I do know a little bit more about science.
And is that something that you feel in any way kind of?
Does that come between you?
You know what? I probably never talked. It definitely because in school I was always at the bottom of all the top sets, so I always felt like a bit dumb compared to everyone. So definitely now I've found something in creativity that I'm like actually good at and excel at. It definitely de-incentivizes me to learn about leaves and shit
Yeah.
inside of a leaf. Do you know what I mean?
But it doesn't bother you then that Jack.
It doesn't bother me that Jack's really smart now, but
Because that was
as a
one of the
general-
things I think I noticed is that Jack,
How are you going to ask that?
you can go down quite a rabbit hole
Yeah.
with general knowledge and information. You're obviously quite clever.
Thank you.
And then you bring in humour, Tom.
Well, yeah. Thank you. I'm the funny one. We're
No, I think you're both extremely bright
Yeah, I'd
guys.
say-
I think,
and funny,
it's a funny
but
one.
the dynamic that I've seen.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
I can get slightly more interested
Yeah.
in digging into things in a way that if you're not interested, you just won't.
I'm quite, yeah.
Well, which is going to be your wiring as well, isn't it? Because you're going to have that hyper focus.
Yeah, I suppose.
I
Yeah,
find
think about it,
that
but
he,
yeah.
like, if Jack's into something and I'm also into it, wicked. If Jack's into something, like, we've had like 4-hour chats about Tyler the Creator, do you know what I mean? But like, if he's really into something and I'm not into it, I'll just kind of make jokes until
Yeah.
he's like, until
And
he
is that then
Yeah.
what
But if
happens
someone
then?
else in the room is into it, I'll try and find a way to be in, or I'll just, don't know, like zone out and think.
Because when we had Tubbo on, you would have seen, this episode's not live yet, but it will be by the time this comes out. We had that long chat about the impact, the impact of.
That was ridiculous, though.
He was talking about. This was quite.
No, even you can acknowledge that. Tubbo and Jack got into this crazy long tangent about if fucking. It was like built off like 3 hypotheticals about like diseases and
No, what it was, you said to someone, what is the future of technology? And he said the thing he fears the most is.
so already we're off to a
The
rocky
thing he
start.
fears the most is the easy consumer and prosumer availability of technologies for
Okay, so come
like,
on.
I'm
medical
lost.
stuff.
I'm lost already.
Like basically,
Yeah.
he used very big words to be fair. Basically, it was just like he doesn't like how easy it is to get hold of things for like genetic engineering and bioengineering. He thinks that's like scary, and people probably like bioweapons are really easy to make because like any old guy can go on eBay and buy like biochemical shit.
But also, I'm on a podcast here. I'm going to be doing little jokes because they need to be entertaining. In real life, I might have asked. What I usually do is if someone's on about something I'm not interested in, I try and ask. I'm generally always curious, so I try and ask questions of ways that I am interested in. And if there's truly none, I just zone out or move on the subject quite quickly.
Which is fair enough, isn't it? I mean, and I guess that's the same thing in some respects for you. If you are on a subject that isn't of interest to you, if it's like a boring thing that someone's talking about, I guess then you won't necessarily go down that rabbit hole, will you?
Probably not. I would imagine not. I'm
Yeah,
quite
I'd
good at
imagine
finding
not.
something that will interest me about a lot of things.
Yeah,
But,
me too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, there is so much that's interesting, isn't it? And people are interesting and things
There's
are
usually an
interesting.
element
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I mean, I think that's what we find in our work. It's like, people are fascinating and
everyone's so
and
different.
the human condition is incredible.
I think if I wasn't going to be doing YouTube, definitely one avenue I'd be so interested in would be therapy.
I was going
'cause
to ask you. I was going to ask you both, if you weren't in this industry, what job would you choose?
I would be doing.
that's different to what I would be doing.
Okay, so what you did there
Yeah,
was
it's
cut
what
me
you
off,
choose.
and it upset me. And I can be forgiving. I can be forgiving because I know you're.
alright.
Because I know you got something wrong with you.
Right. I
was
was
a little
locked in on
joke
what
there
you were
for the
saying. I was
audience.
getting intrigued.
Okay, that's okay. And I love you and I forgive you, but it was wrong, and I need justice. What was I? Oh yeah, I was very interested in therapy and the human condition. I find that fascinating. I did volunteering with my mum with adults with learning disabilities, and that was. I could have done that forever. I love that. Jazz music, I really loved being. I could have really.
So you could have been a
got into
music
that.
therapist.
Yeah. I found that very fascinating when you said that. Probably realistically, I would have gone to uni, studied film, and done editing because I loved editing when I was younger and like YouTube. That was. I still love it. What about you?
I mean, realistically, because I already had a job prior to this, so I was working IT support. I was training to become a software engineer,
Okay.
so I probably would have realistically carried on with that. However, given how I feel now, I would definitely prefer to be doing something creative. But I don't think I'd ever would have realised that until I was doing it. Like I never would have told you I was a creative person.
Really?
Never. No, I would
That's
have never
interesting,
described myself as
isn't
a
it?
creative
Fucking
person.
hell.
Like until I started doing this, I was like, oh wait,
That's mad.
I find such passion in creative venture. I don't know where that.
I can't imagine you not as a creative person.
Well, I think I was. I just think I would have self-labeled, you know. Like
Yeah,
I
you didn't
think-
recognise it.
Yeah, I didn't recognise it.
How did you express it then by then?
I think I did. I think it was just inward. I think I just sort of... I don't really know. I don't know.
Well, in some ways, I wonder also if you think that you've had ADHD all along. If you've been diagnosed now, you would have had it as a child. It's not something you've suddenly got.
Yeah, no.
And so I wonder also if the fact that your hyperactivity perhaps is in your mind, in your brain, like how fast it's working, and everything else. Whether there was actually a creativity that was going on within you, in your head, with the way that your wiring is and the way that you think, that was perhaps stimulating enough for you, whilst you were doing the things that weren't necessarily as creative.
Potentially. That's I wouldn't
Who
really
knows?
know.
I don't know.
That was W therapy. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
I don't really know. I don't really remember. I don't have a great memory.
No.
I have like a
was
sort
just-
of really strange
Yeah, hypothesis.
memory. Of things not really like I'm not very good at remembering how I thought or felt about things, rather exact details of stuff. So I wouldn't know how I occupied that.
So you just fell into the creative side of things with your...
Completely, absolutely by accident.
Yeah.
And then realized like, oh wait, this is like a really fulfilling, like, oh, this is like something I've been missing out on. And so now, I mean, I love film, probably would try and work somewhere in that industry if I could, but I but I was going to be a software engineer.
What's your next question then? With you.
You're loving this, aren't you?
It's pretty sick.
Anxiety.
You not even looked at your clip, but you put it on the floor.
Yeah, mate.
We have some.
Nah, your questions are way
maybe
better.
it is time to ask them what, because I had a big one that I was really interested in.
Uh-oh.
I mean, no. But you guys obviously, I would say relationship experts. I think that's reasonable to say.
Experts, we've struggled a little bit with the word expert.
Yeah.
No,
We've got our own
Not just
imposter
on a
syndrome.
personal level. I mean, it
Just
is
in
on a
general.
personal level, but also, yeah, because I suppose the nature of our work is that, like if you were our clients, you would be the expert.
You're the
on you.
expert.
Okay,
We
sure.
help you
Agreed.
understand.
But luckily, I'm talking about general relationships here, this question. I was just curious. It's probably more of a personal thing than a sort of professional opinion thing, but that's fine.
Okay.
I wondered if you believed in soulmates, the idea that people have like a person who they are destined to meet through whatever means, or do you think that anyone can make a relationship work with anybody else, so being they're willing to put the work in with that person?
I don't believe in soulmates.
Okay,
Or
I'd agree. I
Yeah.
don't either.
yeah.
that's fine.
What do you believe in?
I
Why?
I
Sorry.
believe that there are many people that you can click with, and I believe that you find people that resonate with you, and then you make that relationship work. Love is a verb, isn't it? It's a doing.
Yes.
It's a doing word. You do love. You don't just feel it.
Okay,
Oh,
that's nice. I like that.
I
It's
like
a good
that.
one, isn't it?
That is very good.
Because it's really helpful to hold that in mind, isn't it? When
That is
you're in any
helpful.
relationships.
You don't just fall in love and that's it. You're done.
You'll have the feelings of that. There will be feelings because you've got the chemical things going on. And then in the first sort of year or so of a relationship, you've got kind of all the blind spots because of the chemicals going through your body of how you feel. So there are feelings that are included, but actually when it comes into the actual relationship, that's where it becomes
That's
the
awesome.
verb.
Can I ask you a question? You said in your notes that we saw before we started filming that we use humour to cope or something along those lines. It's
Well,
interesting. 'cause
wondered.
yeah,
Wondered.
even
Oh, okay.
can we explore that? Because even having you guys on, I'm feeling myself get a bit more immature and silly to like make it less weird.
I
Okay,
have
so
noticed I laugh. Have you noticed the laugh I've been doing just randomly?
People do though, don't they? When we're uncomfortable, I get the giggles, don't I?
Yeah.
When we're doing our podcast,
Yeah.
because it's serious, because we're having to be
So-
on. I get the giggles.
Can we explore that a bit?
Sure.
What, I just want to know what you guys think and go down questions and avenues.
Well, I think that we all have strategies of being able to manage more difficult emotions. And in relationships or, whatever, friendships, in those interactions, if things are uncomfortable, we will go to something that we've probably learned as a good strategy of survival, of protection, if you like. And so what we look at, because one of our trainings is as emotionally focused therapists, and what that's based in is basically attachment theory. And so it's looking at how our early attachments have impacted our current relationships, how we interact in our adulthood. So our past having a bearing on our present. And so we will have learned things through our lives about how we manage certain situations. It's not just about, our parents, it's about the environment we're brought up in, our genetics partly, our personality partly, schooling, all our experiences in our life inform us and help us kind of find our way through to where we are.
So for example, humour is quite commonly learned at school. So if you're someone who struggled at school, maybe academically,
I did,
but you found that humour was your way.
This is mad. Yeah,
humour might have been your way of being accepted and liked.
It was.
So,
okay, can I ask you 2 different questions that have popped into my head?
Can I just ask you before you do? How is that hearing that?
Exciting.
Yeah, you find it exciting?
I enjoy knowing more about myself.
Yeah.
Can I ask you 2 questions? One, so I had quite a difficult year last year, and coincidentally, it was also the year that I really invested myself in stand-up comedy, quite obsessively, like traveling 4 hours to do 5-minute sets every week.
wow.
Do you think that is a coincidence, or do you think that's actually because I was having a difficult year and that's how one gets into it?
What do you think?
Well, no, let me ask my second question because I forgot it.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, bollocks, man. I hate forgetting a question. This is why I need a pencil.
It'll come back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Why don't you slow down and just tell us around?
Because I got
one
excited.
first?
I want to get all the questions.
So I can understand that. But in terms of and thinking about that, though, you
Yeah.
asked us a question about humour. So thinking
sorry,
about
I remember the question.
Okay, go
Sorry.
for it.
You know how you explore lots of stuff in your childhood, and like when you're a kid and you have the sort of core events. When I'm like 50 or 60, do you think our 20s would still be considered our childhood, and I'll be exploring things from now as the effect they had on me in like 34 years' time? Or is it pretty locked in your childhood? Just because I've had a lot of big things happen in the past year, like parents splitting up, for example, or like, that sort of thing.
I think that it's all of it.
Any time.
Okay.
It doesn't matter when it is.
Really?
It's just that, it's from the beginning onwards, anything that's prior to where we are now.
Wicked.
They say that the first 5 years shape a lot of your sort of attachment experiences and the way you learn to attach to people. But everything you experience is making up who you are, isn't it? So now will be that too.
Yeah.
You were, I don't know with you, but were both when you were 15 in this world. So you kind of missed a big chunk of your development.
Yeah, and
by
COVID
being into
as well.
that. And with COVID.
Yeah.
Huge thing.
Well, we had it in a weird way. We did.
Yeah.
I think it's different development is what I would call it, rather than missing it, if that makes sense.
Help us understand.
No, I when I was 17, I felt a great longing and sadness in me that I missed out when all my friends were going partying and I was grinding Skyblock subscribers. By the time I was 17, I was like, it's
I
probably
was a little older than you.
Jack started on the internet. He
I was
started at 17 and got popular at
Not
18.
much, but it's enough.
Yeah.
I got popular
Yeah.
at 15, so
lots
it was
of difference,
it
isn't
was
it?
different pressures at a different time, I think.
But it's that time of sort of finding out who you are,
Yeah,
trying
right.
different things.
Experimentation.
What, to go back to the comedy thing, so you get into comedy when you're funny at school?
Well,
No, that...
well, no. It's about whether it's about whether it's going to be.
dickhead?
Sorry. Oh no! You sort of like danced around a bunch of like ideas and strung them together weirdly. It was like I was like, oh, nearly. Sorry, shouldn't have laughed. It just made me chuckle.
It's horrible, wasn't it?
Coming back to the humour thing, then. So it sounded like it made sense to you that actually for you at school,
It did.
it was something where humour was really helpful for you. It was a helpful way of maybe feeling like you were belonging more, not sort of on the outside. I don't know. Is that some of that?
Yeah, especially in some lessons I was with my mates, but unlike most of my mates who were all dead smart, I had like science. I was in. It's so weird because I've been thinking about this loads lately. That's why it's like, oh,
Have you?
yeah, it's been on my mind a lot. Well, I was in like a lower set science, so I didn't have like any of my close mates, so it was a lot more unusual.
So were they all in the upper science then?
Yeah, so
well,
that
this is
was
interesting
when I
then,
was-
isn't it?
and I
If you
put
think
in a lot
about what
more
you two
effort
are like.
to be funny.
Because I was in.
So if you think you've in a way, you could say part of your attraction with your friendship is that this is familiar, because we are often drawn to familiar.
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes that could be a negative thing, sometimes it could be a positive thing. But there's an
But
interesting
I definitely remember, in order to fit in with the popular kids, like I'd be funnier, or just fit in with anyone really. That I just have to put a lot more effort in to make people, and then that's.
But then that's great because it's meant that you're here now.
Yeah, it's work.
Doing this.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think that's really important with those strategies.
Is that bad though?
No, because I think there's something around those strategies of survival that we've learned. It's whether they're, for instance, some people have to kind of learn to bring themselves up a bit by their own bootstraps. They're kind of having to be more independent for whatever circumstances that might be in their home when they're being brought up. So they learn to be very independent, or that there are certain things where emotionally maybe their needs aren't met when they're a child so much. They learn to be self-sufficient, learn to be more independent, for example. And so now it's okay. I can finish this point.
She's going off.
So
It's all right.
So
I feel
I
you,
think
man.
this is important because actually
Not about you going on about Jack. I wasn't saying you were. Anyway,
I'm going to lose my thread. My age, I'll lose my thread. So anyway, so basically, I think it's like out of that, there's sometimes where there's the independence that one has learned is fantastic. It's meant that you've done whatever in your life to be able to manage on your own or whatever, using this example, but at what cost? And so there might be another side where is it useful to you all the time to be independent? Does it mean therefore you lose connections with other people if you're always independent, or do you not want to get close to somebody?
can I say something deep to you? I struggle. This is going to sound weird to like not be funny, to be around a group of people and switch it off. Like I really find that hard to like. Yeah.
But you do it because we see it here. We've
Yeah, but I guess this
Don't
is
tell him
good.
that, he'll panic. If you tell him it's not been funny on the podcast, he'll freak out.
No, but this is just
okay.
this is like a value. There's a value in, not everyone's like a therapist who can fucking, provide a load of massive insights. I mean, just like a casual group gathering. If I'm not like being funny, I feel weird,
Weird in what way?
unrelaxed. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So isn't that lovely? I mean, you both of you are so self-aware. I mean, this is something that's really striking through all the things that we've seen, just sort of getting to know you really this last week. We didn't know you before at all, I'm afraid, because it's out of our world. But, and lovely to get to know you, in the way, a little bit that we are. And I've lost my thread. What was I saying?
I have no idea.
Something like we're like wicked and you're like massive fans.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it was.
Because of watching the podcast a lot. Yeah.
I can't remember.
But yeah.
Well, I've done
Self-aware,
therapy
thank
for
you.
like 5 years since 2021.
Okay.
So that's 4. So but like to me, once I was for like a couple months not up for it, then I started. I remember like having in my notes like, oh, so there's this thing, anxiety, and I like didn't even know. So for me, it's been like I've done it weekly, like every
Good
week.
for you. And I mean, that's what's so lovely. I mean, we wish that therapy was available to everybody, but it's not something that lots of people can afford. And this is one of the reasons why we're doing the podcast, isn't it? Because our own podcast, because we're not particularly people who want to be in front of microphones or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're passionate, both of us, about putting the message out to help people basically.
Just getting information out.
Yeah.
Getting information out.
So
Fascinating.
even like that, just talking to you there and saying about humour can be something that you learned as a way of coping.
And
and
should
then it
one
can
try
get
and
in the way.
unlearn that and find healthier
No.
ways, or is that
No,
good
not
to-
not unlearn it, but maybe recognise where it's covering up something else.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And where you want to use it.
Yeah, sure.
And this is where I was saying about the two things, using the example of independence, that actually, it's great, it works. But here, like Ali says, when you notice, am I covering something up? What's underneath?
Yeah,
What are you
sure.
covering up? And how can you be with yourself perhaps differently in that moment?
Yeah.
Bit deep.
So
No,
other
this is
people,
fascinating.
there's other people your age.
The least I've ever talked on a podcast. Sorry.
You're very
Done a
quiet,
lot
Jack.
of watching.
Did a lot of listening.
A lot of listening today.
But kind of, I don't know about you, Jack, but some people, if they are very academically gifted, that becomes their thing. That becomes their comfort place. And that can be overused.
Hear
that
that,
was weird
Jack?
to step away from. That was obviously.
No, but you're well
I,
into shit now. Scott.
I existed completely within an academic space for the longest time. Like when I was at work, when I was doing the IT support, like we just all like the conversation was like about computer shit. Like we were just we all just spoke about computer shit and like really nerdy shit. And like it was definitely a little bit weird to step away from a space because in school I was like one girl who was a bit smarter than me, and then that was it. Like I was like top of the class, pretty much always. So then it was, I guess, entering a space where that literally holds no sway was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I don't think I adapted to it poorly. I guess I don't think I put much conscious thought to it. But yeah, I suppose sometimes I do have these moments of like, it's very weird because I think I took a lot of pride in that. And that it holds absolutely no sway over my life anymore, which is very weird.
Can I ask a question that's sort of to do with what we were talking about in our last episode in the Patreon? So me and Jack, right, on YouTube. God, we usually save this sort of deep sort of shit for the Patreon, but we had so many questions as well that were a bit silly, and now I just can't.
So did we.
So, okay. Which is just very valuable. I just find this fascinating. Like, with YouTube, so I've been doing it for about 7 years, Jack about 5. And on the internet, when you sort of post videos, it's then quite quickly rewarded with, this video is performing well, it's getting X amount of views, it's getting more than less, it's getting less than usual, and I think, so we had like a proper surge in popularity. And then I'll speak for Jack here, but I've found the sort of past 4 years since quite unsettling, where it's not been straight up. And at least I found it really like, there's a very reasonable part of my brain that knows I want to go and do comedy, for example, and do that. But there's always a bit of a chirping like, oh, but should you be getting this like more, should you be getting, more subscribers and doing what YouTube's saying to do? And I found that very troubling. Do you think that links to maybe, I don't know if Jack feels the same, but for Jack, the fact that he did well in school and it's that same sort of feeling, or for me that I didn't do well in school and it's like now I'm doing well at something, and like, is it really that linked to school? Is that?
Are you talking about feeling that way because of the subscribers increasing and then?
Yeah, you feel like you have to maintain, because you have like a month where that's happening and then you stop maintaining it, and then it's sort of linked to your identity and value around yourself.
And at a formative age.
Yeah, when I was like 15 to 17. So I found that really troubling to navigate. Even as consciously, I'm like, not only is this a system that doesn't serve me and feels unhealthy, it feels like ridiculous, the idea that things are just valued by how many people watching them. Even though I can consciously think that, it doesn't stop me like before bed feeling uneasy. What do you
but
do
I
you
think
that's
there's
linked to?
I don't know what brain scans have been done on this, but neurochemically, I think those likes and subscribers and that increasing does something, doesn't it?
It's the dopamine, isn't it? The dopamine hit, which is an interesting one with ADHD.
So, it's like a reward thing.
And do you
it
think
feels good.
Because to me, I feel quite solemnly, especially having been through all the extreme ends of being a really extreme viewer of someone and being super, super obsessed with them, being a super extreme content creator and having like, the world looking at me when I was like 16. Now I've kind of had that hindsight and all perspective. I'm like, I think generally this is like unhealthy and weird. Like, how do you guys feel about social media? And even if you have kids, do you like?
Well, yeah. I mean, my kids are a bit unusual in so much as they but they'll barely have a mobile phone, let alone any social media. I mean, I don't know whether it's just because of I don't know whether it's because we're not particularly into it or whatever, but actually, my younger son, he did game, and then he got to 15, and then and I was always like, oh, come on, get out, get some fresh air. And then he got into skateboarding and hasn't stopped doing that, and he's a drummer and whatever, so he's out and about. Cool, so, we're a bit of the Von Trapp family, aren't we? And do you know the Von Trapps?
No.
Sound of Music?
No.
Not
really.
Way before your time. Anyway, so yeah, I think there's always this concern from our generation because we don't understand. It's through our own ignorance and not understanding the digital world, if you like, the social media world. It wasn't, I didn't have a mobile when I was a kid. And so it's something that we have had to learn more about. But I think when we have ignorance, when we don't know something, we can feel fearful of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've had to do as parents, wouldn't you say, with our kids and understanding that social world and also the social media world and the social media pressures on youngsters.
I think it's terrible.
Well,
I really do.
I think there's probably it's about balance, isn't it? I guess, because I'm sure there's some really good things about it. Because if you think of people who feel very lonely or who are isolated or whatever, I don't know.
And you've obviously got some fans and followers that really benefit from you two being open about things.
You are particularly pessimistic about it all at the minute.
But because that's possibly
experiencing
that's residue maybe of my bad year.
Yeah, I think you're possibly just unpacking the worst of the emotion. Like what
True.
It is, I think
what I mean.
What I've realised about the conversation we've been having recently is I think you've unpacked this a lot. Like the whole experience, I think you've lived in a state of overwhelm a lot longer than I did, perhaps, and you've possibly unpacked a lot of the emotions.
We had quite different experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think
lived in a state of overwhelm. You said
no. Where was I going? I think you've potentially only recently started to fully settle into those emotions because you were saying things are starting to feel more normal and stuff. And I think this is also possibly the first time you've managed to, in processing all the overwhelm, begin to recognise the negative aspects of it.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think potentially right now quite overwhelmed. It was like you were all overwhelmed in the goodness of it, and then you've sort of now that's subsided. Now you're like feeling all overwhelmed by all the bad side. Is what I seem to think. Like I think you potentially.
He doesn't need us here.
No.
Sorry.
No.
I think
Go for it.
the more you've spoken about it, the more I've like realized. I think right now you're very consumed in like this is bad. And I don't think anything you're saying is wrong at all. I think all of it is like very valid. But I also think you're very blind to because it is now finally settled.
Yeah,
that high is like not.
I think I'm
outweighed.
possibly not thinking about the positives it can have on others than just me, and I'm used to the positives. But at least for me in my life, the negatives suddenly feel.
Well,
a lot
you
more
spoke
potent.
about, you've spoken. So we both, I think, saw your do you call it square?
Square video.
Square video.
Really?
Of you and going to Switzerland.
Oh,
And you spoke really openly about your anxiety and what you were going through. And, for us, we love that. We love the openness of, and this is again a thing I think that you have in your generation that we didn't have as much.
Yeah,
you have this real openness, which is so lovely.
Yeah.
And we're again with anxiety with Ali. What's Ali's saying about people who are your, what do you call them? People who follow you? Followers, is it?
Yeah.
People
I
who,
wouldn't even be
Viewers,
your viewers,
viewers,
or listeners, whatever, that, this is really helpful for people to see the human side of somebody who, my son introduced me to the word, a parasocial relationship the other day.
Yes.
Do you know that? I mean, again,
we know it.
He would know it, I wouldn't. But, that where it's a sort of one-way relationship.
Yeah.
And you're doing something then that's so human that you're sharing parts. And when you've done that even, together here, you pepper, don't you, your podcasts with such personal bit parts. People are seeing you, and I think that makes a huge difference because it then enables other people to reach out maybe for a bit of support.
You think?
I think so, because especially, we're a real departure from your normal guest, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's very true.
You're not Jedward.
We're not Tedwood.
Thank God.
Whoa! Don't be rude.
They were lovely.
They were amazing.
But that to us is what a great invitation. An invitation for us in so much as that's a privilege for us to be here and hear your stories, as it were, and learn more about you, and also to be able to get that something out for us. That we really want our podcast to make a difference to people too, so that people who do struggle with anxiety and can't afford to go to therapy, they can tune into Relational Lives and they'll kind of hopefully find something about it. But I think that's a really important part to all of this for me.
One thing I wonder though is because your generation are very good at recognizing these things, kind of giving them a name, anxiety,
like emotions,
neurodivergence, emotions.
Oh, okay.
Do you feel like, whilst you know what the label is or what you're dealing with, do you feel like you know what to do with it? Because you talked about being anxious.
But not like because of therapy and because of books I've read, not because of Twitter or fucking anything I've ever seen online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because you've had therapy, you understand how to manage your anxiety, manage your overwhelm.
But even then it's difficult.
Yeah.
But I think we're possibly
difficult.
in slightly more unique circumstances than. But I say that, but not really. Like,
I think a lot of
everyone
people,
has something heavy.
a lot of people are struggling with all of that in different ways, whether it be coming out of uni, different things, but the same kind of struggles.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good question. Sorry.
What are your thoughts around it?
I don't know. I had a bit of therapy years ago. Can't remember when it was now. A few years ago. Before I was doing all this. And then very briefly after, I sort of had therapy when this is going to sound silly, but I went in with quite an explicit goal. So I was like, cool, completed it. Then left was great. This started, that sort of unwound a little bit. So I went back, did a little bit more, fixed it. And then onwards.
So it was a kind of...
I was a very, very anxious person for a very long time.
You were?
Debilitatingly so.
Okay.
And
Gosh, that sounds hard. If it's, I mean, you've both had these experiences, haven't you? You saying, Tom, in the last few years, to say debilitating. I mean, that's hard.
I mean, yeah, at that point, it was.
It's when you were much younger, wasn't it?
Yeah, when I was sort of started when I was sort of like about 11, and then sort of went on until I was probably about 18. It probably give or take a little bit.
Such a long time then.
So it was a long time, and it sort of went in stints of being better and worse, obviously. But I would say, it was ever lingering, at least for a long time. But I could never tell you what exactly clicked. I don't really know. I think my thing was I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I still do. But I think I learned
academically through school.
No. That's good. Ish. I mean, yes, but no. It's subjective, right? Because like I would expect myself to be as the best. But also, like, admittedly, that didn't come with that much difficulty for me. Like, it was a relatively natural thing. So I did hold that expectation on myself, but I also often fulfilled it. So it was like...
So you don't get to fail, though, do you?
No, that's a bit like what you...
Because you said that to me, you said it on the podcast before, that when we sort of had that slope at the end of 2021 going into 2022, where we stopped getting as many, viewers...
Yes.
That for you was like fail.
That was the first time I'd ever really failed at anything.
And that's what's really hard, isn't it? Because if you have that expectation that you're achieving, and you actually find it quite easy. And I think a lot of people can find this when they go from GCSEs to A levels or A levels to uni, that there can be something where they've found it all sort of relatively, they sail through it straightforward. They're achieving, and then suddenly something's slightly different, and they don't know how to deal with that.
But it's a bit like what Tom was saying then about, having all your subscribers and likes and everything. And then
this is what pissed me off. You tell, like 14-year-old Jack that 800,000 people are watching his video, he'd shit himself. But then when you tell him that now, and it used to be, a couple million people, then it feels like a failure. And it's like, just how like, but then it just takes you away from the moment of like, even now it's something like, I've had to like, been off social media for the past year because it just is something that will be in my head of just that like just constant sort of negative reframing from social media.
And I don't think it's just on our side of it, like as a creator side. I think it literally exists as a sort of field of comparison where like everything...
I remember when I was a kid being like, oh, the popular kid's getting 50 likes on Instagram, I'm getting 20.
Exactly.
Like it's weird.
It is just like it exists to make every aspect public and therefore allow for comparison. Because even on the level of like, even if you're not looking at the analytics, because you're an analytically focused person, but not everyone will be. And like, but like people will just look at like lifestyle creators and be like, my life is not that life. And like, I think that's...
And I know it's not just us,
the fault.
It's like Bo Burnham's done like whole specials just about this one thing. And it's like, I don't want this to also fucking take up my life, but I can't help that like the older I'm getting, the more it's troubling me.
The more, which part's troubling you?
Just, well, what Jack's saying about the negatives of social media, really.
But do you think that's almost like you were saying, Jack, that like a burnout that you've had from being in this?
Yeah, probably.
That it's just overwhelmed you, almost got too much and...
Yeah, I think I had a lot of years where I was only like, oh my God, I'm meeting all my heroes and everything's awesome. And then it's been a few years and I'm like, oh.
Well, and with difficult things happening as well along the way, your breakup, your parents' divorce, it's like they're big things to kind of process, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also within the social media sphere as well, there was other things.
We've not had the ideal time.
No, I think the problem is that because that's when it started. That is when it started.
Yeah.
Like I remember you telling me distinctly that you were sick of it.
Yeah.
Like I remember the moment, and it's been since then. And
I remember it in the marina. Yeah,
at the marina. Like there was a moment.
I remember. Yeah,
there was a moment where you made this decision, and I don't think this is something you're going to go back on. I do think a lot of the points you've made and the direction you wish to go creatively do mean that I don't think this is the right thing for you anymore. But and it not in a.
Do you know what? He said it perfectly, but it feels like a bit of a shame. Because it really was the right thing for me for so many years.
But isn't that just normal development as well? Normal changes?
But it's difficult. I'm sure people face this in their career when so much of like your identity is like tied to it,
Yeah.
Especially for me from a young age.
Yeah.
And I'm finding it quite disorientating now. I'm a bit
Absolutely.
older.
At a time where, if you think of those years in developmental stages terms, you are finding your identity.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in those later teen, sort of 16
Yeah.
onward years, isn't it?
But if it's become such a part of your identity as well. But the normal process of things is that we go into it and we want to move through it, don't we? I think that's natural.
I think it is. I think the difficulty is when we haven't done something what we needed to do at a certain stage, because I think then sometimes we need to find a way of going through it, even if it's later on. So if we haven't gone through a certain stage developmentally that in a way we're supposed to do, where is that going to catch you up? So if people haven't been doing what they need to do in terms of experimenting and trying out different relationships in those years, then and they don't do any of that, is that going to catch them up later on when they're older, midlife crisis or something, and start
Yeah,
experimenting?
because I think we're
differently
both feeling the like, fucking becoming businessmen in our teens, now early 20s, were like, that's bullshit. We should be fucking making weird, because most people our age would be at uni making weird art films.
I heard you say in one of the podcasts, one of the things that I noticed, you said, I just want to be 20, a 20-year-old lad,
I'd like to, but
And that's a real dilemma, isn't it?
Well, you just end up with all this, here's the thing, I don't want to appear like a dickhead or ungrateful, because it is wicked,
Yeah, of course.
and, we're really fortunate, and there's so many pros that I've gotten used to, and, like obvious stuff like money that I was 15 when that started, so I haven't been able to think about it. But you just end up with all these responsibilities that you didn't sign up for, that you can't feel like you can let go of. Expectations of yourself and what that means, and you decide like, I'm going to get to however many subscribers or what, it could be anything or make anything, and then it's hard to let go of that.
Sure.
And then also sort of pressures from a real eye-opening thing for me was we went to this YouTube summit, and sort of it was like, oh my god, it's not like I'm doing this on myself, it's like also I'm making loads of money for a company. And I think that's suddenly like, oh, hang on, I was like 15 making a load of money for a company. Like you sort of ill, almost protective over your younger self feeling kicks in, and then you're a bit like, it's disorientating, right?
I love that. I love when you said you're protective over your younger self.
Yeah.
And that's something I think we in therapy, that's the kind of thing that we're wanting people to kind of get in touch with, I suppose, the parts of themselves where if there is something where they feel whatever they feel that's negative or whatever about themselves, and then bringing in actually this wiser adult self, if you like, more kind of compassionate part that can actually just be there with that younger self. So,
it's the relationship, you have with yourself,
oneself.
isn't it?
We were going to get onto this.
Yeah.
Self-relationships. But I'll be honest, the way I worded it is now too silly.
We've got so many silly
Go
questions.
silly.
No, because
silly.
I fully...
Jack had one.
I had some very...
Jack had one. I'm just going to read to you. This is
ridiculous.
This is going to be on the Patreon now. I'd like to talk about sex, but don't know what to say. That was
No,
Jack.
what? No.
We're very happy talking about sex.
No, this was no, my exact thinking there was, you've really dobbed me in, that isn't fair. In the meeting, we were like, what can we speak to these guys about? And we were all digging into all sorts to do with relationships and all this stuff. And I'm like, they probably know a lot about sex. I wonder what they'd have to, I wonder what their advice is for sex. But also, I don't really actually have a specific question. It was just a sort of passing thought. So Tom wrote it in the notes as my passing thought. So I don't have anything I'm sorry to report, I don't have any specific questions. It was more just an acknowledgement of the fact that you probably know something, and there's probably something there to learn, but fuck if I know what it is.
We can talk about it.
We can, but
Jack, is it something you want to say here?
There's nothing I want to say. This is the problem.
It sounds like you look like you're a bit awkward.
Well, I definitely
uncomfortable.
dobbed me in this sort of...
So when he dobs you in,
Yeah,
a bit
no,
uncomfortable.
exactly.
I'm holding myself together.
Not me. I'm open. I can talk.
I'm open to
Jack,
talk about
I'm like
sex,
you.
I
I'm
just
comfortable. I'm comfortable.
don't like being dobbed in.
Well, it was more, I didn't think now was the time to move on to the sex talk, nor do I feel like I felt like I was learning so much, and I just don't feel like I'm currently looking for sex knowledge.
Okay. Maybe that can be another episode.
No.
Maybe.
How? What?
You?
Sure. What? How would you start?
How do you start sex?
No, not sex. No.
Oh,
How?
sorry.
Oh,
What?
yeah, now I've done myself in. I've
How
done
do you
myself in,
start?
Jack. No, I'm talking about sex, but now I'm realising I've dobbed myself in, and now I'm getting all weird.
This is what I mean.
It's difficult, Jack. I'm sorry. It's more difficult than I
It's
imagined.
awful what you did because
Yeah.
it was just an acknowledgement. All I was making was like, look, if there's anything we have about sex, these guys are probably the people. But
But you haven't got any questions for us?
I just don't.
Well, maybe you could come up with some and we can kind of.
We can have a think. Maybe we'll take that to the Patreon. Maybe we'll have a think about sex
all
during
right.
the break. And I don't know if that is that weird to say. Maybe during the break we'll think about sex. Not too hard. Like
Quite the tone shift in like 2 minutes.
I don't know why you did it. This is on
Well,
you.
guys,
This
tell
is
me.
definitely on.
Right.
I was talking about the one where I said, "Can you have a good relationship with yourself?"
Yeah.
But
I said that's a stupid question because the answer is yes, and I've defined
But
yes.
I think
Can you
at
have
the
a
time,
bad one with yourself?
I'll be honest,
Yeah.
I thought at the time that this would be a more lighthearted conversation about relationships instead of what was quite a big therapy session. So I thought it would be a funny pivot, but now, given the introspective chat we've had, it just sounds
Sorry,
well,
I didn't
we've
quite
got
get-
some funny pivots as well.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well,
And that, yes. Go for
more
one.
of that to come, but
Yeah.
first, I must...
Oh Jesus!
the worms.
I must pivot your attention to the worm because we do have a tradition where every week we check how the worm is doing, and this is your responsibility now.
I know you're thinking.
What do we have
why
to
do we
do?
have the
Just
word?
check
Find
how the
out.
worm's doing. Have a look for him. He's
Find
maybe in
the
this one.
worm.
Also, we think there might be two, and potentially they might be in a relationship. So maybe you can really
So is
comment
this
on
like,
that.
you know, you get a present, like a gift, you know, like
Do we get to take it
a
home?
fair.
No, we
No,
keep
no.
it.
Like
Yeah.
if you
It's
find
ours.
it.
You just have to find it and sort of tell us how it looks, if you can. If you can't pass it back, I'll find him.
Sorry, I
always
did.
do.
I did basically. That was basically like therapy,
It's sort-
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was basically.
It sort of
it's
got
fine,
away.
and it was fun, but at the same time,
Sort of got away
It was-
from.
it was weird when you just mentioned the
is that
sex
one
at the end.
Yeah, sorry, man.
I just made me look like a dirty perv boy.
It was your dirty, weird, pervert
I
question.
think
No,
it's
it was.
hiding.
I just.
Should I have made it more funny?
I want it to be mature.
This is the main. This isn't even the Patreon.
Can't
No, it's
find
fine.
it.
People
All
will
right.
No,
like
can't
it.
find it.
Can't find it.
No.
That's fine. Let me have a look. He was just. There he is. Same spot as last week. Isn't that weird? We definitely didn't
Is it
record both the
technically-
episodes in the same day. Yeah, he's right there, just chilling still. A whole week he's been there. Wow. Well, let's move on from that quickly.
Maybe it's his
Guys,
comfort zone.
We have a lot to talk about on the Patreon. A lot to talk about.
Yeah, we actually have like so. We got so many.
I guess we'll think about sex. I guess we'll look at these funny pivots.
think about.
I guess we'll. You know, I've got a question for you guys about the fact, and you're not doing it now. And I think it's because you knew I was going to ask this. Tom, on all the episodes, has to get the last word in. Have you ever watched them to the very end? If you notice, he always. I'll like try and outro it, and he has to have the last word. And I just let him do it. But I want to know if you could figure out why that was. But I guess we'll find out on the Patreon.
Why do you think? Why do you think he always mentions dream?
What?
went
Fuck
through-
off!
He always
It's
brings
fun.
it. There's actually an account that tracks how often he mentions it, but he
Right.
says it doesn't bother him. But it
Mentions
does.
what, sorry?
A dream.
Oh no! Because now you've got you're right. We'll talk about this on the Patreon.
I've dobbed you in twice,
Fuck's
mate.
sake.
I've dobbed
We'll
you
talk
in
about this
so
on the
much.
Patreon. Make the sound with me. $7. Come join us.
Patreon.